little while ago, I created a video about the joys of getting paid as an NDIS service provider, and it's been one of our more popular videos. So today I'm going to dig a little deeper into some of the ways you can improve your billing process to get you paid quicker. We know there are lots of moving parts when it comes to NDIS claiming and the plans of your participants. So let's have a look at some of the important pieces of information that you need to keep track of and how you could potentially keep track of them to make life easier and keep your cash flow flowing. So first up, when it comes to service bookings and service agreements for your participants, there's tracking the funds left or knowing how much time you've got left to work with them in the current plan period. You obviously need to know how much funding they have approved for your supports, how much you've used, and then how much time you've got left. But this is important to stay on top of so you don't go over and end up working for nothing, and to make sure that you can get as close to achieving your participants' goals in that time that you have available with them. So how do you keep track of that in the most efficient way? A lot of practice management systems that cater for NDIS providers will have this function built into them. You can set it up at the beginning of working with someone, and as you have appointments with them or spend that time working for them on reports or coordination or whatever it is, the practice management system will automatically deduct that from the service booking amount. That's definitely the easiest way. There's so many different practice management systems out there, and I talked about this a little bit in a previous blog post, which I'll link to below. But if you don't currently have software that handles this well, the main and simplest other option you have is a spreadsheet. We've done this for clients before and kept a spreadsheet with information about funding type, whether they're plan or self-managed or agency managed, the practitioner working with them, any relevant support line items if you've got multiple services, plan dates, and the amount of funding you have for them. So obviously that's going to be a bit of a manual process to keep track of, but rather than having to go in every time you do something for that person, so you could just add a step to go through at the end and update that spreadsheet with the total amount that was claimed for each person for the week. So it's a relatively quick extra step once a week, and if it's updated the same time every week, practitioners can easily deduct the time they've spent during that current week to get a pretty accurate update of where they're up to. So tied in very closely to the plan's funding amounts is the plan end dates. And I'm talking about this separately because it can be a curly one, as you probably already know, because if the participant has an early plan review or some other change to their plan, and you're not like the support coordinator or working really closely with them, then you might not find out until you go to make your next claim. Sometimes support coordinators don't even find out straight away. I've seen that lately. So you may think you still have months left in the current funding, but then you find out the service booking was ended a week ago by the NDIA, and you're scrambling to get a new agreement in place so you can claim the work that you've completed. I have two suggestions to help with that issue. So number one is I recommend doing your claims at least weekly, so that if a service booking does end suddenly, you're not too far behind and you're not going to be too far out of pocket while you're finding out about the new one. And number two is something that we've come across recently that works really well is a relatively new report in Proda, and I'll pop a screenshot below where you can find it, to download your active service bookings. So you can download it as a CSV file, which you can then open in Excel or Google Sheets, and that will let you see at a glance all your service bookings with their end dates and the funding left in them. If you're keeping track of your service bookings and funding amounts in a spreadsheet, then you can actually very quickly match the two spreadsheets together. Or if you're using a practice management system to keep track of your funding, quite often you can do an export of service booking data and match that to the pro to export. It could be another relatively quick weekly task to see if any of your service bookings have unexpectedly ended or are coming up for review. So you can get on top of them before it becomes an issue with not getting paid. So what if you do have a few errors from your claims that need following up and new service agreements put in place before you can claim? Then you need to keep track of those unpaid claims so that they can be claimed once the funding is back in place. So you don't want those dollars slipping through the cracks. And if you're listening to this going, oh, of course, that's kept in our practice management system, or if it's something you know is under control, then awesome, don't worry. But I have seen multiple businesses where, depending on the software or the processes they have in place, it's not always automatic. And then sometimes these errors may automatically be saved, but they're not actually followed up and claimed once the service booking has been updated. So if you're not sure, it's worth checking your processes to make sure it is being tracked and followed up and you're not missing out on dollars. So depending on the size of your business, a little error here and there or little amounts going over your funding can really add up if you've got quite a number of participants. And if you're too busy to get on top of it, then the problem just compounds. And unfortunately, I have seen a couple of cases of this. It's so heartbreaking to see these amazing caring service providers sometimes working for next to nothing because they're not getting paid what they should, and it's just not fair. You deserve to be paid for the amazing work that you do. So if it's something that you're not sure of or you're avoiding because it's messy and complicated, and you might not want to know how much you haven't been paid, I totally understand. But we can help, either by outsourcing the catch-up work to get back on top of it. We love a good challenge. Or we can also help look at ways to improve your processes and tracking methods to fit in with your software and your team setup. Or for some clients, we've just taken that whole NDIS billing process off their hands, like the weekly process, so they can focus on great service and support for their clients. So if that sounds like you, click the link below, get in touch, and we can help, because we want to help you simplify, outsource, and grow. I'll see you next time.